नमस्कार। आज आमर विमर्श तार आरंभ करवा। प्रथमे त्रिओमकार शांति पाठ, तापर आमर वक्तांकर इंट्रोडक्शन, देन टॉपिक ऊपर डेलिवरेशन। ओम ओम सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Today's topic, harnessing IP rights of traditional communities. Our esteemed speaker, Dr. Santosh Kumar Mohanty, he was the vice president in TCS, and the responsibility he had was the global head of intellectual property rights. A very versatile speaker. He has done a lot in that area. Around 400 IP rights. He has worked for that. In his own name, he has 10 IP rights. In Vivekananda Kendra, he is being associated and guiding us in different activities. I request him to start his deliberation. After the deliberation, we have question answer session. Whoever is watching in YouTube can put their questions in YouTube. We will address that. And there are whoever is present here, their questions also will be delivered upon. Now I request our speaker today, Dr. Santosh Mohanty, to start his deliberation.
Thank you, Lakshmi Bhai. How to present now? My slide is already loaded, but it's not coming in the screen. Now it has come. Okay, now it has come. Okay, all right. YouTube. Hi everyone. Very good afternoon. While I prefer to speak in Odia, but I'll feel more comfortable and articulative today if I continue in English. So if you are okay with it, please allow me to speak in English.
It is okay.
Today's section, around 45 minutes that we'll spend, is about harnessing IP rights of traditional communities. I will explain what is traditional communities at the end of my discussion, not at the beginning of my discussion. With this, let me move forward. I hope all of you are seeing my slide. So the objective of today's presentation is limited to sharing with our Vivekananda Kendra ICOM team a summary of the state of intellectual property and the associated rights related to Indian traditional knowledge. And then I will introduce something called Traditional Knowledge Digital Library, its focus and achievement, and some thoughts on what BK ICOM can and should focus in this subject. And what I'll be covering today, while trademark is not a core part of the discussion as a part of traditional knowledge, but I'll start with the concept of trademark. Then I'll move on to geographical indications, what is called GI, GI as a concept. Then I'll link the geographical indication to the trademark concepts, why there is a relationship that exists. Then I'll come talk about traditional knowledge in India context, and opportunity for our Vivekananda Kendra ICOM. The next slide, slide 3. I hope all of you are able to see the slide who are in the streaming. This slide 3 talks about the trademark. So when you talk about a trademark, it is a sign capable of distinguishing the goods or services of one enterprise from those of other enterprises. And here I'm talking about enterprises, an organization, a government organization, or a not-for-profit organization, or a for-profit organization. Trademark are protected by intellectual property rights, IPR. And this protection happens at a national level, like a Indian Patent and Trademark Office or US Patent and Trademark Office, or at a regional level, like European Patent Office. And this is by filing an application for registration at the national or regional offices. And at the international level, there is an option, two options. You can keep filing on a specific set of national or regional offices, or you can file as per some WIPOs, World Intellectual Property Rights Organizations, Madrid system, where you can file in multiple national territory or regional territory. Protection timeline usually varies, but in most of the cases, it is for a period of 10 years, which can be extended indefinitely by paying the appropriate fees to the respective jurisdiction. And the types of trademark are in terms of product mark, service marks, collective marks, certification marks, shape mark, sound mark, pattern mark, and geographical indications. And there is a question mark on geographical indication. I'll come there. But let me talk about a product mark. Something you identify that as a product, right? A Colgate toothpaste or a Nico Bajradanti, right? There's a product, on that you have a trademark available. Service mark, typically any service company that you can think of, that's a service mark. You talk about TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, Infosys, any service that you provide and you want to brand it, then you can go for that kind of trademark. And any corporate, you can see your service offerings, you can also trademark it. And it has to be represented through a sign. And when somebody sees that sign, can understand this service belongs to this following company or following organization. Collective mark, where while a company owns the right or an association or organization owns the right, but that association or organization is driven by a society of members, like our Chartered Accounting Society. You look at the symbol of Chartered Accounting, you look at the symbol of Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, those are collective marks. Okay, that's the category of trademark. Then the SEP mark and the certification mark, your ISI certification, BIS certification, those are the examples of certification mark that they get known in the marketplace that they are important body for certain class of certifications. Then you have shape mark, how you shape a bottle, right? Your Apple logo, the shape of the company Apple, right? And the logo, those are shape marks. Sound mark, of course, the color tunes that you happily download and use it, they're all having a sound mark, right? Otherwise, there will be a violation with respect to those trademarks. Then pattern marks, you can come up with any specific patterns, and then that also you can trademark it. Your architectural designs, your handicraft designs, that you can do a pattern mark. Then geographic indication, in some territory it is a trademark only. Some territory, like some nation like US Patent Office, Patent and Trademark Office, it is a trademark. But if you apply for a geographical indication, then they will ask the community, tell us which location to which it belongs to, and tell us what is the earliest sign of documented evidence where you can show that this belongs to this location. Okay. Whereas in many geography, it is a separate category of intellectual property right. We'll be discussing that thing in more detail. So while I speak in all those things about product, services, collective, certification, shape mark, sound mark, pattern mark, and I question mark on the geographic indications, which we'll be covering in more detail later. I didn't talk about smell mark because smell is another important thing. Uh, still, it is a questionable thing that smell something which is not visible, not audible, right? Your sound mark is audible. You can get a feel of it, right? Your shape mark and product mark, service mark, everything is visible. Whereas smell mark, in the absence of visibility, in the absence of audibility, many jurisdictions they are not comfortable to categorize it as a organized way of granting rights on that front. Debate still happens on smell mark. With this, we'll move on to the next slide. A typical trademark classifications in India. There are 45 categories on which the trademark get classified on different industry areas or different service areas. There are 45 ways it gets classified. For example like a name like a TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, it's a trademark. It's a trademark under the service category of IT services. If somebody else in India come up with the name TCS, right? Like training and consulting services, some name called TCS. Can they go ahead? Answer is yes or no, right? In general, yes. If somebody come up with a name called TCS and say, no, it's not a IT service company or IT service and consulting company, it is a company which produce chemical paints. One can get away with that. But then, if a given trademark is already so popular and so known in the marketplace, so that by coming up with the same nomenclature or name, it could create a doubt in people's mind that that new brand or new name actually belongs to that parent organization, then the jurisdiction may decide not to give that name to anybody. So in that way, TCS as a trademark is so well known in India in particular and globally. Anyone come up with a brand name called TCS, maybe in different industry, very difficult they will have to get that trademark through. Certainly not in India, but in other geography they will find it lot difficulty. All of you know about Amul, right? So, and all of you also know there are multiple attempts that has happened in last 40 years for people to use the word Amul. And even they come up with a variation to that called Amulya and all those things, right? Even if they are in the other areas, it's not, because Amul is a household name and household brand in India. You cannot tell that, okay, no, Amul is under dairy product class. I am creating Amul in some another industry area. You just cannot tell that thing in India because that's a bellwether. Okay. So that's something called bellwether, something called high visibility, where your jurisdiction may not allow any other company to have that trademark even for certain different industry and different service type. Now we'll come to geographic indication. The next slide. A geographical indication is a sign like trademark used for product that has a specific geographical origin and possesses qualities or a reputation that are due to that origin. For example, the Rasgulla coming out from Odisha, right, as an example. In order to function as a GI, a sign must identify a product as originating in a given place. So you should be able to link whenever you file for a GI that that product or that services is associated with a given region or having a given origin. And you should be able to provide certain documentary evidence on a historical footprint. And what's the typical process one has to follow? That's about on the top left hand side. Potential candidate for a GI registration, first figure it out the historical origin, then area of production, that is it about handicraft, is it about agriculture, is it about certain manufacturing processes, area of production, then what is that production process that you speak about, then the specification. Okay, for example, I mean Rasgulla is one example quite popular. Let me talk about Odisha Ikkat sari. Let me speak about that, right? If it's Odisha Ikkat sari, then where it gets manufactured, yes, Odisha has a broad region. Where it get produced, what is that production process? How do you specify Ikkat, right? And what is the uniqueness here? And why are you filing for a GI? Is there a threat perception that somebody is going to copy? Then if there is a threat perception, somebody is going to copy or somebody is trying to copy, are you planning to make any money? Are you planning to create any visibility around that? If no, then why are you spending time and effort to make a GI, right? So what is the market potential that you want to drive as a community or your region is going to drive as a community? Ask these questions. If for each of these things, there is a historical origin, you can clearly tell area of production, you can articulate production process, you can say that how it is different, specify it, and show the uniqueness, and tell that attempts that has been made or may be made, okay, to copy it and how it is going to affect that community or the place of origin, and go ahead with a estimation of market potential, then your GI can be potentially granted. In India, we'll tell in detail, the GI activity started in terms of a official notification, gazette notification in 2001. And actually GI filing started from 2005 or 2006. A lot of groundwork has been prepared before the jurisdiction India started granting the GIs, because many foreign companies, foreign institutions, they also wanted some of the GIs to be granted in India. In terms of rights, I'm talking about. Origin is there, but they want to do business here, so they want to take rights here also. We'll see a couple of them. So if you look at the bottom left-hand side, our beautiful logo for India, GI logo and slogan, that incredible, invaluable treasures of incredible India. Atulya Bharat ki Amrut Nidhi. And Amulya Nidhi. Amulya Nidhi. And all of us, we know that our Odisha Rasgulla got a GI tag recently. I mean, as late as 2 years back, 2020. And probably the Bengal went ahead with first as Rasgulla. And then probably the Odia community then got up and felt that they also have the right or they have the unique right, not they also have the right. There is a lot of debate. Good that we figure it out that as per our Lord Jagannath culture, uh, Rasgulla itself is a part of the diet is routine stuffs, right? What goes as prasad, and that really helped in getting the GI tag. But then there was merit on Bengala's application, so that's for there are two GI tag available in Odisha. Sorry, in India. One is Rasgulla from Bengal, another is Odisha Rasgulla. So if you look at our GI tag is Odisha Rasgulla. Let me tell you another interesting thing. Purpose of telling this thing is what is the opportunity lies ahead of us if we focus in this area in seeing that what are the typical capabilities that our traditional communities they possess with respect to their traditional knowledge which can be GI tagged. For example, we all know khaja, right? Or the equivalent word feni that in many places we tell in Odisha. If somebody asks, is khaja is something which is Lord Jagannath Prasad, 100 out of 100 people will say, what question that you are asking to me? Everybody knows it. If somebody would have asked, is Rasgulla is Lord Jagannath Prasad before this GI kind of issues, maybe 5 out of 10 would have said, I don't know whether Rasgulla is a Lord Jagannath Prasad. Maybe another 5 would have said that, yes, I know. You'll be surprised, Khaja or Feni is not a GI yet from Odisha side. However, there is a state in India, I will not name the state. Already they have a GI on Khaja. Yeah. You know the name, okay. So you know the name. Already they have the GI on Khaja in India, the Bihar.
Their khaja is different. Our feni is different. Not the same.
That's
different.
Yeah, so it should be different. If it is same, then we'll have a problem, right? Because you have to tell manufacture the process specifications. You have to come up with difference. Of course, we may win it because khaja is traditionally prasad for Lord Jagannath. But unless you show the specification difference and uniqueness, then getting a GI grant would be difficult. But what I am talking about is as a state, if we will be proactive going forward, there are many, many areas we can create GIs, not only the food item, but many other items and handicrafts, on agriculture, on manufacturing, we'll be able to create those things. With this, I'll move on to the next slide. Next slide is giving a overall statistics of geographical indications in India. If you look at the first column that talks about when the GI rights that Government of India started granting is from 2005. It's happening for last 17 years. And this data is current as the end of financial year 22, means till March 31st, 2022. That's where the report comes out once in a year, the financial report. So exactly the number of GIs granted in India as of March 2022 is 420. So don't be so finicky about that number 420. It just come out like that 420. And on a yearly basis, how many of them are granted that you could see. And in the last financial year, there are maximum number of GI grants that was 50, right? And given that on every year, how many of them has come from different Indian states and how many of them have come from outside India? So that's where the breakup is as of today. 392 of them have come from Indian states out of 420, and 28 of them have come other countries like Italy, Japan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. These are the countries because of their business interest. They have registered some of their GIs here in our country. Odisha has a state. Altogether, we have around 18 GIs. Okay, 18 GIs that we have filed and granted. Okay, and if you look at 9 of them are under the manufactured class, sarees and fabrics. 4 of them are on handicraft class, and 5 of them on foodstuffs and agriculture. The difference between foodstuff and agriculture is a foodstuff is something as is you can eat it, or that's a general practice of eating that thing. You can tell upama, I can eat it as is, but you cannot tell that I can eat rice as is. For a competition sake, you can tell that, but you never eat rice as is, kind of thing, the chawl itself. So that's why you differentiate the agricultural product and foodstuff. So Odisha has 18 geographical indication, and one of them, if you look at FY14, we have one GI filed, and that is the logo about Odisha Patachitra. Logo about Odisha Patachitra, and that I have pasted that logo of Odisha Patachitra. I'll tell something interesting there. In the FY14, when he filed Odisha Patachitra, look at the name Odisha written as ORISSA, not ODISHA, because by then, in state, we have changed our name from Odisha to Odisha. And if you look at financial year 9, in financial year 9, in addition to Konark stone carving and Pipli Applique, we have Odisha Patachitra as a GI already in 2000, in FY19, right? And sorry, FY9. And there you look at the word Odisha, ODISHA, right? But then people started using our Patachitra. Other different state people, they started using our Patachitra and started using some sort of a copycat kind of things. That's where, to strengthen our Patachitra, our state government decided to also take a GI on the logo that we have. But when you decided to take a GI on the logo, then the other guys said in 2014 that Odisha as a name, ODISHA as a name, was not existed before 2005. And hence, why are you stopping us using those Patachitras and creating another brand in the name of Patachitra, calling ODISHA Odisha? Odisha as a name didn't exist. And as soon as that complaint came, then Indian Patent and Trademark Office realized that's a valid question. Then said, look, you cannot do a registration of Odisha Patachitra as a logo with a retrospective effect depth that this is known, okay, for last 100 years and all those things. And hence, if you have to do that, then you have to do the logo in the name of Orissa, ORISSA, right? So that's why that name came as ORISSA. Good story to tell. Good story to tell that, of course, it is better late than never, right? But what is the challenge that you face if you become late? That also one has to understand. And hence, a proactive interest of jotting down all potential traditional knowledges that can go for GI, making a sincere attempt to make them GIs, ensuring that we understand the entire value cycle, right? The geography of origin to the market potential, right? Will really be helpful. This is a typical symbolic representation. I'm sorry, not symbolic, means I talked about the sign, right? Every GI has to have a sign, and all the 18 patents that has been, 18 GIs that has been filed in Odisha, other than the first one, the rest of the 17, they are the sign representation of the respective GI, right? Sign representation of the respective GI that is listed here. This will come to the next slide, which is about traditional knowledge and indigenous knowledge. These words many times are used as a synonym, and sometimes people say that traditional knowledge is a part of indigenous knowledge. But for this discussion, I'll keep on using the word traditional knowledge as traditional knowledge stroke indigenous knowledge, right? So this traditional knowledge and indigenous knowledge are generally referred to knowledge systems embedded in the cultural tradition of regional, indigenous, or local communities. And as per WIPO, that is World Intellectual Property Organization, and United Nations, both traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expression are types of indigenous knowledge. Traditional cultural expression means the way we sing, the way we dance, okay, the way we do mimicry, right? These are the cultural expression. Right? So traditional knowledge includes type of knowledge about traditional technologies and processes of subsistence. That means tools and techniques for hunting, like there is a stone, you sharpen it in a typical style, right? To kill some specific class of animals. To kill another specific class of animals, you have to sharpen in different way. So those are the tools. Those what is called subsistence. So and that is used for hunting, agriculture, our typical plows. Okay, those are also the traditional knowledge on which those plows has been built, right? And your traditional medicine, crafting skill, climate conditions, and others, right? You know, in village, in our young days, we are आज बारिश नहीं होगा, आज बारिश नहीं होगा, right? Sometimes they will tell, even if not so much of cloud, you know, of course, our Indian Meteorological Department, their prediction today nowadays is very accurate or quite accurate. 20 years back, 25 years back, 30 years back, their accuracy level was not that much. But the people who have the traditional knowledge,
We request everybody to please stay. There is some technical error. We are sorting it out. Thank you.
Action.
I'm already done that.
Yes, we are back on screen.
Back on screen. I'm opening up my presentation again.
Please, please.
Yeah, just give me some time. Yeah. Hopefully, you are seeing my presentation again. Yeah. Okay. So now we'll come to traditional knowledge and communities. In many scenarios, when you talk about traditional knowledge, it is practiced by the community which has a belief system and around the location-based biodiversity and biophysical environment such as plant, animal species, landforms, and water courses. Therefore, one or more of the following way a traditional knowledge impacts or influence the community. Either they say that it reflects their interest, because some or other region they want to have this kind of celebration. Some or other region they believe that the water from this river has a purity, right? So they have a belief system, right? Sometimes it is for their survival, right? They are creating some sort of a sharpened arsenal using a stone, because there are wild animals around and they want their family, their community to survive. And many times it carries personal and spiritual meanings. In one or more of this region, they will promote that traditional knowledge and start practicing it as a part of their belief system. Additionally, the knowledge of these communities is often embedded in a cosmology, and any distinction between intangible knowledge and physical things can become blurred. See, as soon as you start believing on a cosmology systems, then your belief system gets into little bit of abstraction, right? So, as per community's belief system, traditional knowledge in such cosmologies is inextricably bound to ancestors and ancestral lands. And knowledge may not be acquired by naturalistic trial and error, but through direct revelation, through conversation with the creator, sometimes spirits and ancestors, right? I mean, it's true. I mean, you go and talk to the traditional community, you'll say that, yes, this is something that I learned from the spirit, right? When I was in sleep, this is what I heard, okay, from my Jejema who passed away 10 years back, right? That kind of things that also comes as an example. These communities often have custodianship over the knowledge rather than ownership, and customary law may guide the usage and obligation of different kinds of knowledge at particular times and places. So many traditional knowledge, you may not find the direct owner. They'll say, I don't own this knowledge, but I am the custodian. Today I am promoting it, and anything requires with respect to this knowledge, yes, I am questionable, but I am not the owner because I don't know who, I mean, I didn't create it, kind of things. And there is some sort of a guiding law. I mean, for example, a hunter might be permitted to kill an animal only to feed the community and not to feed himself. This is a very dominating practice in majority of traditional in majority of the communities, this traditional knowledge, because it has a societal implications, right? Because you stay as a community, if you are allowed to kill the animals for your own eating, even nobody will know, you'll keep on killing. And when there is a time of need, you will not have that thing as your food. At least if there is a good governance available, that if you're killing is for the community, then the question is, have you taken the permission of the community? Then why did you kill it and bringing it to the community? Number one. Number two, once you kill, then it's not a food for one family. It could be much more than that. It should not go wastage, right? So if it's a community involved, then it can be well distributed. And if it is for a community purpose, then why are you killing arbitrarily today, tomorrow? It should be based on a celebration. Celebration could be a common celebration. Celebration could be your family, somebody's wedding, or whatever, maybe. Okay. So this is to put some sort of a regulation so that the ecosystem can be better managed, kind of things. So then we'll go to the next slide. Here we'll talk about traditional knowledge and rights. When you talk to those communities who possess this kind of traditional knowledge, that hey, how about taking your traditional knowledge and getting into a GI tag for this? Then they have certain apprehensions. And these are the apprehensions. That first one is equitable use of traditional knowledge. That means whatever practices that we have, or whatever restrictions that we have created with respect to this traditional knowledge, whether the same restrictions or the same practices can be taken it forward, or if not, if it has to be changed, then how will we be taken into confidence? So that's the first question they ask. Then the next question is greater protection and control over traditional knowledge and resources. First is patent filing after explicit consent of the community. Many of these traditional medicines has the potential of filing patent if you provide the scientific reason and the scientific evidence, right? And hence they want explicit consent. And then once somebody comes for explicit consent, then the economic negotiation happens, right? That one time how much you have to pay as a loyalty, how much you have to pay, and some intermediaries, government can interfere, or some interested bodies can interfere to facilitate those kind of discussion. Then publication and distribution of traditional songs and stories after explicit consent. Okay. Protection against misappropriation and misuse of intangible knowledge and cultural heritage. How will be protected, right? If somebody misappropriate it and misuse it. And prevention of traditional symbols and design getting used as maskers and in handicraft derivatives. That example that I gave about our Patachitra, right? As one example I gave. So there are three broad approaches to protect this traditional knowledge that the world has developed. One is protect this traditional knowledge as a form of cultural heritage, that the cultural expressions, right? Protect as that. Protect this traditional knowledge as a collective human right, because many times owner is not known. If the owner is not known, how come you are going to file for registration, right? Because you are the custodian. So that means it could be a collective human right rather than a direct ownership. And the third one is which WIPO and WTO, World Trade Organization, they recommend that investigate the use of existing or novel sui generis. Sui generis is a word which means in a class by itself. The International IP Collaboration Treaty talks about many such classes. So you see that a given traditional knowledge, can it be a class by itself, right? Or can a new class need to be created under that international patent or international IP collaboration treaty? So that's what it get discussed and negotiated there. Then we'll move to the next slide. We'll talk about traditional knowledge and rights. So there are three slides that I'll be talking in this case. Traditional knowledge has two important properties. It is very valuable and it is very vulnerable. Both statements are true. So if the traditional knowledge is very valuable, because that could be a significant market potential that we can create, but also vulnerable. It can be infringed and misappropriation or misuse can happen. So, and because of that, the livelihood of the communities who are the guardian or the owner of this traditional knowledge may be challenged. And the healthcare needs of more than 70% population and livelihood of millions of people in India is dependent on this traditional medicine. And globally too, there has been renewed attention and interest in the use of traditional medicine, increasing its vulnerability to exploitation. Right. The third point is the grant of a US patent to wound healing properties of turmeric flags the danger of complacency in proactively guarding the traditional knowledge. Let me read the fourth point, then I'll talk about third and fourth. Fourth is the time, effort, and money spent on revocation of turmeric patent at USPTO highlighted the need for putting in place a proactive mechanism for TK protection, traditional knowledge protection. As all of you know, there is a huge cry in India, I guess around 2004 and 5, that there is a patent got granted in US where how a turmeric can be used or the byproducts of derivative of turmeric can be used to heal certain diseases, right? Then we said in India, we all knew these things from time immemorial and all those things. Then we have to go to the court to file it, to protest it in US because the patent was in US only. We spent 7 crore rupees between the 2005 to 2008. At that time of currency equivalence, 7 crore rupees, $1.5 million we spent to revoke that patent. So that means if a patent one gets filed and to revoke that patent is a huge exercise, both in terms of the manpower effort that you spend and the money that you spend. Then why not act early and have a review of your traditional knowledge? And if you see there is a market potential, there is a economic potential, especially around agricultural products and medicinal values and your crafts, the areas, focus areas, why don't you proactively make necessary GIs and with significant scientific evidence, those GIs can further go beyond to be patented. The problem related to Indian traditional knowledge is further compounded by the fact that India's traditional medicinal knowledge exists in languages such as many languages, right? Sanskrit, Hindi, Urdu, Telugu, Odia, Bengali, and all those things. Like suppose in US a patent got filed, right? And the poor guy said, I would not have done this thing. I studied the literature. I didn't find it. And now the Indian government showing this literature, telling that it was originally written in Telugu, originally written in Odia. So by default, my intention was not to sideline some traditional knowledge. I didn't know it was not available in English, right? So that means while the patent will get withdrawn, but the penalty, financial penalty, will not be there with that guy because it is not a knowingly violation of the existing knowledge that is available. Right? So therefore, it is equally important for us, India as a country, not only make the GIs out of traditional knowledge, but also make the GIs document available in languages with proper translation so that around the world that literature can be available in that language. And those are machine language translation capacities that is now being developed in that direction. That's where is the right time for me to introduce the second slide, very important thing, something called Traditional Knowledge Digital Library. This is a pioneering initiative of Government of India to protect Indian traditional medicinal knowledge. Look, it is only Indian traditional medicinal knowledge, not other, and prevent its misappropriation at international patent offices. In 2001, this TKDL was set up as a repository of various systems of Indian medicines such as Ayurveda, Unani, and Siddha, and along with that, the yoga postures, right? How different yoga postures will help you in having remedy for different kind of diseases or illnesses or bring the wellness. So TKDL has overcome the language and the format barrier by systematically and scientifically converting and structuring the available content of the ancient text on Indian systems of medicine and translating the same to 5 foreign languages: English, German, French, Spanish, and Japanese, using certain IT tools again developed by different Indian organization. And also they have developed a classification system called TKRS, Traditional Knowledge Resource Classification. And not only they have developed this resource classification, they map this resource classification to the global standard. That's the second bullet point. So they have mapped to this classification to the global standard to 200 subgroups under international patent classification called A61K 36/00. They mapped it, and our medicinal knowledge available on traditional knowledge has been converted to 4.24 lakhs of formulations, right? In a typical medicinal language, what we call as molecules. So 4.24 lakhs of molecules that has been formulated, right? doesn't mean that 4.24 lakhs formulation means 4.24 kind of medicines, right? Medicines will be lot lesser, maybe 2000, 2500 kind of things, okay? Because it depends upon all compositions, but you have to capture them as components so that the right match and mix will helpful for different kind of illness or different kind of illness that you want to drive. Then also India has signed non-disclosure agreements with 15 patent offices, the regional patent office, European patent office, and another 14 patent offices like US patent office, Germany patent office, France, Malaysia, Russia, Spain, UK, US. They're all written in alphabetic order after European patent office to prevent the grant of a patent application by giving the patent examiner of those countries access to our traditional knowledge digital library so that they can see the prior art exists here. Okay, already the knowledge exists here. So the grant will be revoked, or the inventor has to find different ways and means to bring that invention, to make that invention unique. That means the same application as is cannot go through the patent cycle, right? So that's a great thing that TKDL has done. In addition to that, not only the violation will happen outside India, violation will happen within India also, right, of the traditional knowledge. So the slide 3 talks about some of the legislation that government of India has brought on traditional knowledge is the Biological Diversity Act in 2002, the Protection of Plant Variety and Farmers' Right Act in 2001, and the second one is first one is on the environment and medicines, because that includes on plant and all those things. The second one is again on the medicines and also on the agriculture and giving rights and custodianship to the farmers. The third one is the Geographical Indication of Goods Act in 1999. And TKDL is proving to be an effective deterrent against biopiracy and has been recognized internationally as a unique effort. And TKDL has set up a benchmark in the traditional knowledge protection around the world, particularly in the traditional knowledge rich countries, by demonstrating the advantage of proactive action and the power of strong deterrence. The key here is preventing the grant of wrong patents by ensuring access to traditional knowledge related to prior art for patent examiners. Okay, so that means before the patent gets granted, you kill them, right? So that's you don't have to spend your effort, money, and all those things. Otherwise, that turmeric kind of event will happen once the patent is getting granted. So far, TKDL has identified nearly 1,200 patent applications globally in last 15, 16 years, where they have raised a concern that prior art exists to the respective patent examiner, and precisely 271, again, as of March 2022, I'm giving the data, precisely 271 of the patent applications have either been set aside, no, it cannot be taken forward, or withdrawn, forget it, I'm never going to get grant here, or amended, that yes, there are certain concerns, let me change it, and with a reduced scope, that let my patent get granted. Whereas APDA had to spend about 7 crores towards legal fee only for getting few claims of basmati rice patent revoked. That's the example that I was talking about. We could not revoke that patent fully. We just revoked some of the claims of that patent, and we fought for 4 years and spent 7 crores. And in energy, many IS officers, secretaries moving here and there, legal professionals and all those things. In fact, in 2016, our member of parliament, Shashi Tharoor, wanted to do something good, but it didn't go through. So he brought a private bill telling that how we'll be able to protect, preserve, and promote traditional knowledge system in India. A bill to do things in a more systematic. Somewhat government felt that it is not solving the main purpose. The main purpose that we talked about, the 3 points. Okay, and it requires further discussion, and hence nothing more has happened in that front. With this, we'll move on to the next slide. TKDL success in stopping patent grants, as is, during the pre-grant stage. In the previous slide, I talked about 271 patents precisely. Those 271 patents has come from 15 countries. Sorry, there's a spelling mistake on my countries. 15 countries and from 36 organizations. Those patent has come, right? From US, 13 such organization. From Korea, 3 such organization, and etc. Even from Israel, there is a pharma company, Nave Pharma, right? One of their patent got revoked in that way. So that means it's working across the world. There is repercussion. Then what I believe is the opportunity for us as a Kendra ICOM. In a long range, can we collaborate with TKDL, CSIR, or other like-minded organizations in identifying a priority set of traditional knowledge areas where international communities are or will be engaged in IP creation? And please note, TKDL is only focusing on the areas of medicine. There are so many other things that need to be done, right? Investigate the use of existing or novel sui generis, a class by itself, right? Measures to protect traditional knowledge as GIs. Then investigate the opportunities of economic returns in the value chain. Who will get what, right? And file patent in case of economic potentials, right? If there is no big economic potential, stay within GI. But if there is a big economic potential, so patent will give more rights to you, and hence do further research in bringing scientific aspect of that process and products and the scientific evidence so that it can be patented. And then build patent portfolio around traditional knowledge. Because with 1 or 2 patent, you cannot go to a war field and win the war. You have to go with a battalion. And battalion means you have to have a patent portfolio to support those kind of traditional knowledge. So this is long race, that what we should do over a period of next 10, 15 years. But what we should do immediately in this year, if you ask me, then this is what the important step that we should start. Because while we are knowledgeable, having a lot of knowledge, but unless we take the people in the field from the community, then acceptance and progress will struggle. So therefore, my suggestion is establish something as Odisha Janjati Traditional Knowledge Community with 2-3 representation of people from each Janjati with a deeper knowledge about the community and community practices. And we can name it as ICOM OJTK community. Prepare and conduct a 2-day workshop or few workshops to discuss, deliberate, and document what traditional knowledge need to be protected as a form of cultural heritage. What traditional knowledge need to be protected as a collective human right, because there is no clear-cut ownership, right? And how to define and detail the equitable use of the traditional knowledge. Please note, equitable use means a community which is the custodian telling that the restriction that I am using only in my community to use this traditional knowledge, the same restriction need to be accepted by the world at large. Otherwise, I am not giving the permission to go for the GI, right? Or you convince me why I have to change. The typical language that we say, right? The continuity or the change is applicable here, right? So how to define and detail the equitable use of traditional knowledge according to the restrictions set by the community, and based on workshop throughput, design whatever the throughput that has come out from the workshop, then you have to design and run a set of projects with milestone commitment in every 3 months to ensure that we are accountable and we are responsible for what research we have to do and what's the report out that we have to do. And because of that research and report out, either something substantial that has come out from those set of traditional knowledge, so that we can promote it further, protect it further with GIs and patents, and get a economic return ideas about those traditional knowledge. So that's all what I wanted to say. And that's where I'll summarize telling that why in one of the previous meeting, I said that harnessing the IP rights of traditional communities, right? It cannot hold on to a traditional knowledge unless you have that kind of historical evidence, right? And the ownership, if not the custodianship. And hence, some community has to come forward telling that accountability will continue to be with me, even if I don't own it as a custodian. And whether we'll call it as a traditional community or not, that we can debate later. But this is what is the overall fact come story, that what I wanted to share with all of you. Sorry that I took almost 1 hour. Probably we started 5-10 minutes late, but I took 50 minutes. But I'm ready to take any questions, any queries, any thoughts that any one of you would like to share. So I'm done with my presentation. So there are many ICOM members in the room where I'm presenting. I believe the number is more or less around 14-15 here. And I don't know how many people are on the streaming by now. Feel free to share your views and raise questions.
So, can I
Sure, sir.
be adequately to you?
Absolutely.
ମାନେ ବାହାରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି ଓଡ଼ିଆ ବୁଝୁ ନାଇଁ ଆପଣ ସୁନ୍ଦର ଭାବରେ ପ୍ରେଜେଣ୍ଟ କଲେ। ମୁଁ ତ ପ୍ରଥମରୁ ଶୁଣିଛି, ଫାର୍ଷ୍ଟ ସ୍ଲାଇଡ୍ ଚାଲିଥିଲା, ମୁଁ ଆସିଲି, ବିକଜ ଅଫ୍ ଦ ମୁଁ ଥିଲି କିଚ୍ ଇନଷ୍ଟିଚ୍ୟୁଟ୍ରେ ଗୋଟେ ନ୍ୟାସନାଲ୍ ସେମିନାର ଚାଲିଥିଲା। Still I left it after 3 o'clock. I wanted like ସେଠି THRT ର ଗୋଟେ ପାଟେଣ୍ଟ ଡାଇରେକ୍ଟର ଅଫ୍ ପାଟେଣ୍ଟ ଅଛନ୍ତି, ଯାଇଥିଲେ ଫର୍ମର ଡାଇରେକ୍ଟର STCRI ସେଇଟା କହିଲେ ଓଭରଅଲ୍ ଡିସ୍କସନରେ ସେମାନେ 2ଟି ପାଟେଣ୍ଟ ପାଇଁ THRT 2ଟି ପାଟେଣ୍ଟ ପାଇଁ ଆପ୍ଲାଏ କରିଛି, ଏପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ମିଳିନି। ଗୋଟେ ବୋଧେ ନଟ୍ ବୋଧେ ଆମ୍ ସିଓର, ଗୋଟେ ହଉଛି କେନ୍ଦୁଝର ମୟୂରଭଞ୍ଜର ସେ ଯୋଉ ଲାଖ କଣ୍ଡେଇ, ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ହଉଛି କୁଟିଆ ଖଣ୍ଡର ଆର୍ଟ କ୍ରାଫ୍ଟ, କୁଟିଆ ଖଣ୍ଡର ଏଇଟା କରିଛନ୍ତି। ଆଉ ଏପଟେ କିସ୍ର ସେ କହିଲେ ସାର୍ ଆପଣ କହି ପଛରେ ବୋଧେ ଉପରୁ ସେଟା ଚାହିଁଲେନି ମୁଭ୍ କରିବା ପାଇଁ, ମୂଳ କଥା ହଉଛି ମୁଁ ପଚାରିଲି କିସ୍ ବାଲାକୁ ଯେ ଆପଣ ତ ଏଇଟା ଟ୍ରାଇବାଲ କଲଚର ବିଷୟରେ କରିଛନ୍ତି, ଏଇଟା କିଏ ତାର ବେନିଫିଟ୍ ପାଇବ? ଆପଣ ଏଇଟା କହିଲେ ଯେ ଏଇଟା ଟ୍ରାଇବ୍ ଇଜ୍ କଷ୍ଟୋଡିଆନ୍, ଟ୍ରାଇବ୍ ଇଜ୍ କଷ୍ଟୋଡିଆନ୍। ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ ଆପଣ ଏଇଠି ଠିକ୍ ପ୍ରେଜେଣ୍ଟ କଲେ। The question is how equitable distribution, whatever money they get, economic financial benefit, how that will be distributed. That's the point we can discuss, or after the density କହିବେ, that one point. ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ ଭଲ ଜିନିଷଟା ମୁଁ ଶୁଣିଲି, ଆପଣ କହୁଥିଲେ, I was also I knew it previously regarding their hunting practices. They call it a hunting game. So never hunt. You are very right. Individuals ମାନେ କେବେ ଶିକାର କରିବାକୁ ଯାଆନ୍ତିନି। ତାଙ୍କର ଇଣ୍ଡିଭିଜୁଆଲ ମ୍ୟାରେଜ ସେରିମନି ହଉ ବା ରିଚୁଆଲ ଫଙ୍କସନ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି ହଉ, they go in a community, selected members, ପ୍ରତି ଫ୍ୟାମିଲି ନହେଲେ ବି 15-20-30 ଜଣ, କିଏ କାହାର ବୋ ଆଣ୍ଡାର, କିଏ ଡ୍ରମ୍, କିଏ ଲାଇଟ୍, ବିଭିନ୍ନ we have seen, we have observed, if not participated observation, we have seen, they go and hunt something, and then that is equitably distributed. ଯୋଉ ଫ୍ୟାମିଲିର ନ ଯାଇଥିଲେ ମଧ୍ୟ ସେମାନେ ସେୟାର ପାଆନ୍ତି। So I understand all these things. Very nice presentation, very lucid way you have presented it. ମୁଁ ତ ବିଲକୁଲ କିଛି ବୁଝିନଥିଲି, ମୁଁ ବହୁତ କିଛି ବୁଝିଲି। ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ହଉଛି, ଆମେ ତ ବହୁତ କିଛି ଆପ୍ଲାଏ କରିପାରିବା, ବହୁତ କିଛି ଆପ୍ଲାଏ କରିପାରିବା। ମୋ ପାଖରେ ଜଣେ DSC ଲୋକ କରିଛନ୍ତି about the ଆମେ ସେଇ ଆସ୍ପେକ୍ଟରେ ତ ଆମ ନେକ୍ସଟ କଲଚର ହବ, the folklores and myths, its scientific implications। DSC କରିଛନ୍ତି, ତାର 8-10ଟା ପେପର ବି ଅଲ୍ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆ human ecology, ethnographic study of India, ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଷ୍ଟଡି indigenous knowledge of plant resources, ତାଙ୍କର ଏଥର ବଟନୀ ଇଏରେ ଯିବ, ନଟ୍ ଏଥ୍ନୋ ସାଇନ୍ସ, ବାୟୋଲୋଜିକାଲ ଆସ୍ପେକ୍ଟ ଆସିବ। ସେ ଏଥ୍ନୋ ବଟନୀ ଆସ୍ପେକ୍ଟରେ ତାଙ୍କର food, fodder, medicine, spiritual activities, economy, and ritual. এই 5-6টা 7টা aspect they are using it, and that can also, I don't know how many are patented. ତା ଭିତରେ କିଛି patent ହେଇଥିବ ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନି, ଏବଂ ତାର ଗୋଟେ ଯୋଡ଼େ 3ଟା ଟିପିକାଲ ଜିନିଷ ଆମେ ସେମିନାରରେ ମୁଁ particularly ପ୍ରେଜେଣ୍ଟ କଲାବେଳେ ଆଜ ଏ ଗାଇଡ୍ ତାକୁ ଯିଏ ଆସନ୍ତି ରିପ୍ରେଜେଣ୍ଟେଟିଭ ପେପରରେ ବାହାର କରିଦିଅନ୍ତି। ତା ପାଖକୁ ମତେ ଆସେ କୋଚିଂ ପେପର ଦେଖିଲା ବେଳକୁ some new medicines of all the community are found, researcher, professor so and so, scholar so and so, ଆମେ ଦେଇନୁ ପେପର କିନ୍ତୁ ବାହାରିଲା। ତ we encourage sir ଆପଣ ତ ଏଟା ଓପନ ପ୍ରେଜେଣ୍ଟେସନ କଲେ ସେମିନାରରେ ଆମେ ଦେଇକି ଆସନ୍ତୁ ନେଲେ ପରେ before publishing you must ask it. This is it's an open national seminar, it's open to everybody, and we publish it. Publish ହେଲା ପରେ ଯେ ଲୋକାଲ ବାହାରିଲା ଟାଇମ୍ସ ଅଫ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆରେ, ଲୋକାଲ ପେପର ବାଲା ପ୍ରଭାତ ହଉ, ସମାଜ ହଉ, ଧରିତ୍ରୀ ହଉ, ଅନୁପମ ଭାରତ ହଉ, ମୋ ଘରୁ ଆସିଲେ ସାର୍ ଆପଣ ଆମକୁ ନ ଦେଇକିରି କେମିତି ଆପଣ ଟାଇମ୍ସ ଅଫ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆକୁ ଦେଇଦେଲେ, ଆମେ ତ ଲୋକାଲ ଲୋକ ଆମକୁ ଆଗ ଦେବା କଥା। ମୁଁ କହିଲି ଭାଇ ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନି ବିଲକୁଲ ବାହାରିଛି, ଏଇଟା ସେମାନେ ସେମିନାରରୁ ନେଇଛନ୍ତି। ସେ ନେଇକିରି ତ କଣ କରିଛନ୍ତି I do not know, but we can also know it, do something on that how they use the exact methods, plant को plant seed हो, तार stem हो, तार root हो, तार florence हो, तार flower हो, method we use, what they use for medicine. Similarly for the craft articraft जोड़ा काम कहते हैं,
Right.
ताकर agriculture हो, music हो, transportation हो, measuring हो, lot of utensils activities हो. The book is published. ଇଣ୍ଡିଆରେ ସେ ବହିଟା ଯେତେ ସେଲ୍ ନ ହେଇଛି, ଫରେନ୍ ମାର୍କେଟରେ ବହୁତ ସେଲ୍ ହଉଛି। ଯେହେତୁ ଏଇଟା କାମ ହେଇଛି and this is a PhD work, ସେମାନେ ତ ସେଥିରେ କିଛି ଗୋଳମାଳ କରିପାରିବେ ନାହିଁ, and this is original work of a PhD scholar or the university or the natural property of the copyright scholar and the university. ତ ସେମାନେ ଯଦି କିଛି କରିଥିବେ I do not know, ସେଗୁଡ଼ା ବି ଆମେ କରିପାରିବା। So we have very ample scope I think.
Actually sir ସେଇଟା ହିଁ ତ objective ଆଜିର ଯୋଉ ବିମର୍ଶଟା ହେଲା GI tagging ର, ସେଇଟା objective। କାରଣ ଆମର ଯୋଉ one of the objective is Indian culture ତିନିଟା ଏରିଆରେ ଆମର ଯୋଉ research area ରହିଲା, Indian culture, yoga and management। ତ ଏଇଟା this comes under the purview of the Indian culture ଏରିଆରେ ଯଦି ଆମେ visualize କରିପାରିବା, OICAM can take this lead, ତାହେଲେ OICAM will be having lot of tie-ups with TKDL ହେଲା କି relative agencies ଯିଏ ଯାହା କାମ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, not only medicinal plant, ଆପଣ ଯେମିତି କହିଲେ biodiversity area ରେ ବି ହବ, craft center. So we can also identify, because we are into multiple tribal communities, so we can just try to find out ଯେ ସେମାନେ କଣ ଏରିଆରେ ଇଣ୍ଟରେଷ୍ଟେଡ। ତେଣୁ ତା ପାଇଁ ଦରକାର କମ୍ୟୁନିଟିର ଷ୍ଟ୍ରଙ୍ଗ ବାଇଣ୍ଡିଂ କରିକି ଆମେ ଯଦି ଗୋଟେ ଟ୍ରାଡିସନାଲ ଫର୍ମକୁ ଡିସ୍କ୍ରାଇବ ଜାଣିପାରିବା, ତାର ମେଥଡୋଲୋଜିଟା patenting file or GI file କରିବା ପାଇଁ या patenting going forward patent file କରିବା ପାଇଁ methodology, yes, he is expert, he knows it, and we can create a model for that also. ଗୋଟେ documented model ଆମେ format କରିଦେଇ ପାରିବା, କରିଦେଇକି ତାକୁ we can illustrate. But ତା ପାଇଁ ଯୋଉ research work, the research ground research work, that is more important.
Ground research work ଯୋଉଟା already ହେଇଛି that we can see, ଆଉ ଯୋଉଟା ହବ we can apply for
Exactly.
tribal Ministry of Tribal Affairs we can apply.
Yeah.
Ministry of Culture ଆଜି ଆସିଛି, ତାଙ୍କର ଟିମ୍ ଆସିଥିଲେ Ministry of Tribal Affairs ର, Ministry of Culture ର ତାଙ୍କର ଡେପୁଟି ଆସିଥିଲେ, ତାଙ୍କଠୁ ବି ଆମେ ଆପ୍ଲାଏ କରିପାରିବା। they have lots of money, କେହି ୟୁଟିଲାଇଜ କରିପାରୁନାହାନ୍ତି, ଇଭେନ୍ କିସ୍ ବି ତାକୁ ନେଇପାରୁନି, ଆପ୍ଲାଏ କରିପାରୁନି। ଆମେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଲେଖିଲେ ସେମାନେ ବି ନିଶ୍ଚୟ ହେଲ୍ପ କରିବେ for carrying out the project on the
methodology, how we will proceed. At least this is a topic which has just provoked that this is now a new area where we can enter it, and OICAM can be a front runner on this. ଏତିକି ଯଦି ଆମେ ଯଦି ଆଜି ଏର ବିମର୍ଶରେ ଯଦି ସମସ୍ତେ ଏକମତ ହେଇପାରିବା, then we can formalize ଯେ କୋଉ ଏରିଆରେ ଯିବା। ତେଣୁ ଆକର୍ଡିଂଲି ଆମର ଫ୍ୟୁଚର ଯୋଉ ଆସ୍ପେକ୍ଟ ଗୁଡ଼ା ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା, ଯୋଉ ଗାଁକୁ ଯାଉଛେ ବି ଆମେ ପିନ୍ ପଏଣ୍ଟେଡ କି ଏଇ ଆଜି 2-3ଟା ଏରିଆ ଉପରେ ଆମେ ରିସର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରିବା, ତା ଥ୍ରୁ ଯଦି କିଛି ଆମେ ପାଇଲେ ଇନସାଇଟ୍ସ, ତାକୁ କେମିତି ରିସର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରିବା we can ଆଗେଇବା, ତାହେଲେ ହୋପଫୁଲି ସନ୍ତୋଷ ଭାଇଙ୍କର ବିମର୍ଶଟା very productive and effective ହେଇପାରିବ going forward। ବାକି ତ he is an expert in the world, not only in India, he is in the world, he is an expert in the area patenting, and more which we talk about ଟିକେ very minimum also ସେ ଏରିଆରେ ଅଛି, କାରଣ ମୁଁ ବି ଗୋଟେ patent bank ପାଇଁ କରେଇ ଦେଇଛି, ତେଣୁ ସେଇଟା ଅଛୁ। ଜିନିଷଟା ହେଲା ସେ ଗ୍ରାଉଣ୍ଡ ରିଆଲିଟି ଅରିଜିନଟାକୁ ଆମକୁ ବାହାର କରିବା ପାଇଁ।
ଆମର କଂସା ବାସନ is very famous। କଂସା ବାସନ ଉପରେ ବିଭିନ୍ନ ପ୍ରକାର ଆର୍ଟ ୱାର୍କ ହେଇକି ଆମର ଯୋଉଟା ପୂଜା ଲାଗୁଛି,
ଜଗନ୍ନାଥଙ୍କର ଏଇର ସବୁ ବିଭିନ୍ନ ସରସ୍ୱତୀଙ୍କ ଲକ୍ଷ୍ମୀଙ୍କର ଯେଉଁ ସବୁ ଡେଇଟି ମାନଙ୍କର କଂସବାସନ ଉପରେ ସେଇଟା ଆମ ଭାବନି କଂସବାସନ ଉପରେ ଆମର କିଛି ସେମିତି ପେଟେଣ୍ଟ ଅଛି ପଥର ବାସନ ଯେମିତି
ନାହିଁ
ପଥର ବାସନ
କେବଳ କୋଣାର୍କ ଷ୍ଟୋନ ୱାର୍କ ଅଛି ଆଉ କିଛି ନାହିଁ
ହଁ।
ମାନେ ଓଡିଶାରୁ ନାହିଁ ଓଡିଶାରୁ
So the founder member of the KEET Research Link, along with Professor Pushti, we had founded the research wing. So I'm very much aware about what research work goes on in the KEET University. So regarding KEES, it is a basically survival question mark for the survival of the children from different parts of the district. It's a heinous exercise to bring the kids away from the mother and the mother culture to Bhubaneswar and feed them by mechanized methods. And they lose their roots, and it is an ingression and it's an invasion upon the intergenerational equity of these kids, and they will not really like to go back to their lands in large scale the way they were. They were bound to their roots. Now it's an experiment.
I think that is not the subject of discussion.
That is a subject of the discussion. That's what
No, that was
that's what has come to me. I'm addressing to the person who's speaking. I was very impressed with your presentation. What reminded about Mr. Ramadurai, I think your appointee, when you were appointed, he was
you are the CEO.
So your lecture is very parallel to Ramadurai's presentation. It's very infectious also. I was very much impressed by this person. I don't know whether he's still alive or not.
Yeah, Ramdurai is doing very fine.
Yeah, so the gentleman lived long,
Yeah.
but he was a big inspiration for the. I was a teaching assistant at the IIT Bombay, and he was a
Very nice.
lectures. Now, working on this intellectual property rights, in fact, I'm a patent advocate, and I work for particularly patents of water, catering to companies like Veolia and other packaging industries. Though we are against packaging, but we help them out to find ways. Now, it's a commercial drive. And your 7 crore rupees tag that you have been discussing again and again in the matter of the rice, I think.
Basmati rice.
So, nice would have been to give a data annually what is the trade in basmati rice. If the annual trade data, forget about 10 years, 100 years down the line, just a 1 year data of what amount of basmati rice we sell, but 7 crore is not a minuscule amount. And all this exercise that you are planning is against that 7 crore and that alarm bell after the 7 crore. I think few other 7 crores will be sufficient to put them down. Rather than practicing the traditional cultures, I'm telling you many difficulties. Bhubaneswar, there's a village called Tamando here, Tamando. We have a land piece of 14 acres, which was protected by the Khurda Darpan. Britishers, clerks, our Indians, the brown clerks of the Britishers, they had occupied that land and they snatched it away from the traditional wellers because it is an artificial well. The water comes out naturally from there. Nobody is creating or doing anything. Bhubaneswar, all of us are from Bhubaneswar. We are all sitting here talking about international issues. Right here, there is a conservation forest with the artesian well water coming out. And our municipal corporation here, or the whatever body you call it, they have declared it as the yellow zone. Means in 70-30 basis, that water body will be taken away. There's not a single canal, there's not a single stream, there's not a single river. And this artesian well is giving water to 2,200 families all around who are living on that. We are not able to protect that here. British had protected. British snubbed that clerk and didn't allow that land to go away because it was written in Urdu. Now we are struggling to protect a piece of land here. I think this entire exercise, nobody told us what will be the cost of all this exercise. How many crores that we are trying to burden the exchequer on. Anyway, this is a discussion that I did. Gota Babu is here. He's, am I right?
Mr.
Raji. Okay. We are very familiar in Bhubaneswar, many of us. But then, let me tell you, the exercise of doing all this, the costs are far, far, far more than anticipating a patent needed. What are our research scholars in the different universities in all the country doing? All their literature is in English. Not a single traditional language research volume comes up. Even in tribal studies, all are in English. So all are on the internet. All can be scanned by your searching. It's very, very easy to search and do. So I think somewhere down the way, you are a programmer or you are from the TCS company, it seems. And your drives are very much positive, and anybody talking against it would look negative. But in the hindsight, if I look as an Indian, I know what all litigation is all around us and how we are not able to protect. And a 7 crore amount is nothing against the Basmati business that we are doing. Because all your lecture, I noticed, it was the 7 crore amount. That was a big question mark on the heart and soul and mind of the intellectuals. That's not a concern. Traditional knowledge cannot be encapsulated in any form or the other. Yes, you are right. If somebody
Namaste. So we are having some technical problem due to net issues. So we'd like to close this session. Thank you all for viewing. Close with Shanti Mantra. Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. Sarve Santu Niramayaः. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.